within the cockpit and makes it more comfortable. And also, any other recommendations for future references? Just compete in different categories and see how we do. Alright, so for lifelong learning, we learned a lot. This project has really challenged us in every way aspect. Team building is key. Communication is very key when you have such a large group, because we all want to compete and have the same goal, which is compete and do the best that we can. Time management was very crucial. We had every 3 months we had to update our profile on Shoei Marathon just to see how we're progressing with the vehicle. And also, once we passed all the inspections and we were driving the car, and Cynthia was driving the car through the streets of Detroit, we felt pretty proud. Like, it was a feeling that we haven't accomplished. Like, we've accomplished something that's not many had. And while we saw our vehicle driving through the streets of Detroit, it just reminded me saying, like, wow, like back in 1896, this was the same streets that Henry Ford was test driving his first vehicle. That's pretty cool. So that actually led us to start a Shoei Marathon team or club. We want to emphasize that we want to globalize FIU within that company and within that competition, and pretty much just bring new innovative ideas. Start off from our concept and build off of this, and then maybe a few years down the road, we're placing first in different categories. All right, and to conclude this presentation, we just want to say thank you to all these individuals. Pradeep Shinde, he was our mentor. Our advisors, Dr. Tremonte and Dr. Redding. Our manufacturing team, Eric Santana, Luis Rojas, and Fernando Rojas. And I'd like to, before we open up to questions, I'd like to invite Cynthia up. She is the Panther official driver, and she did great for us. So thank you. Take the question.
Where did you guys place in the competition?
So we placed unofficially 9th because we were supposed to build a controller, and unfortunately we purchased a controller.
Right.
And so overall we had 125 kilometers per kilowatt hour in our best race. But the last trial, which Cynthia had, we did it in under about 24 minutes and 15 seconds, which we truly believe it would have been 185 kilometers per kilowatt hour. So out of 28 teams, we really think we would have been 5th.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty good stuff. How many teams overall you see?
28.
28.
In our category. Overall, it was, I believe, 122 teams.
Okay. While doing your carbon fiber shell, is there anything you saw that you could have done different that saves time in the construction of the car that you would recommend future teams?
Well, at least for us, I believe that if we could have gone with the viable options of the Fusion, just due to cost constraint, if we had the funding, which is what we're trying to set up, I think the time and the actual structure of the vehicle would have came out a lot better.
And also, because we're starting up the team for next year, it took a lot of time from us. If we have more people, we can divide the time between more individuals, and it will get done faster because we can actually be there every single step of the way and not wait till it hardens 2 days and then start with the next space.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Sure. So you mentioned a couple of things about that you would do differently, right? One was make it a larger window. You didn't talk anything about kind of your power system or anything like that. So what changes would you make to the drive system or to some of the other components rather than just making the window larger?
I think, well, originally, our first design was to build to use a hydrogen fuel cell. Unfortunately, a hydrogen fuel cell for a 500 watt vehicle is $4,100. And then the 1,000 watt fuel cell is about $7,000. So it was a little bit over budget, and for our budget, for our purposes, each one of our teammates put $500, and we were able to come up with $3,000, but we still had to pull out of pocket an extra $500 between all of us, and the travel expenses were another $800. So the best we could do for our competition was the battery, which was about $440. But for if next year's team wants to, if they're able to, we would definitely recommend hydrogen fuel cell because there's only 2 in the category, and if they compete, they'll still be in the top 3.
So to follow up, right, what your recommendation would be spend more money, right? Is that?
Well, actually.
No, I just, so what I'm trying to get at a little bit is, what design choices would you change, right? So not just necessarily take one thing out and put it in, but what engineering lessons did you learn and what would you
Well, we
prescribe
thought
that?
for the propulsion system, I guess you could integrate, depending on, for us, we found that this was the most lightest and most efficient way, which was the hub motor. But you could always have an
The
electrical
most
motor,
lightest and most efficient, no matter what.
well, that we found
Okay.
with our cost
Okay,
constraint.
all right, okay.
But,
Be careful.
of course,
Okay.
we found other teams that they had an external motor and they had gear reductions.
Mhm.
And you could probably implement that if you have time.
Well, okay. The driver, no question. Well, sitting in there, I'm sure you got a helmet on and everything. I'm looking at the front plexiglass. Did that bind, the joint you see there, did that impair your driving, your visual?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, it's kind of warped.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I can see perfectly out, but everything is kind of warped. So you can't exactly tell the distance, like, you can't tell how far exactly it is, so you kind of have to like, all right, this is where I have to turn.
Right.
What we say, one of the major things that we should do is like change the windshield for a completely whole.
Right, because when I walked in, you guys had it sitting there, I was looking at that, I'm like, that had interfered with the
Yeah, it
visual.
had some sort of,
But,
Yeah, we had some difficulties, like trying making the windshield.
Right.
but that's why I have the technical inspections of visibility,
Mhm.
and we passed it, so I think that we're ready to race.
And, I like the design. I know you guys have another car upstairs. Are you guys gonna take it apart for the next one, or are you guys gonna try to keep them together and have the new team start a whole new shell?
well,
What are you guys looking
I
at?
would have to be discussed within the team and our advisor. But if it could benefit the next group, then why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what's really interesting is that of most of the teams, every year they come up with a new chassis, a new body, a
Right.
new system. So, of course, if they're low on funds, they could take some parts, but making the body is really interesting.
Okay. Reason I asked that is because I was looking over SAE, and typically the previous cars get disassembled or after the competition is gone. So then when the new team comes in, they got nothing to look at, to study, and get ideas from. So if you can keep cars that are complete and working order, and you come up with a whole new car, you know, there's days where you've got to turn and work and say, okay,
Yeah.
let's have fun, let's go test drive before Saturday.
Yeah.
And you learn from previous design what things you would want to change.
That's it.
If I can just add one more follow-up to that. Just because, I don't want to say you brushed it aside, but ultimately, unfortunately, she basically became your customer for this design. So that visibility aspect is critical
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah,
Just to be aware of that moving forward.
No, no,
It's
that's
very
right.
uncomfortable too, I'm quite sure. They all are. That, yeah, they have to.
Yeah, that's why we pinpointed that out. Once we got to the competition, you get exposed to so many ideas.
Absolutely.
You definitely implement
I'm just
it to
saying,
the next generation.
make sure you keep that in mind beyond just the standards and requirements of the competition, that you're going to have your own personal requirements.
Okay, thank you very much.